Yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you guys had a wonderful, beautiful Thanksgiving. I hope you guys, I saw a few of you guys, you guys' Thanksgiving off of my, not my Snapchat, off of my Instagram. So I hope you guys had a really good one, man. I know I had a great time. Drank a little too much. Didn't make it to work the next day. It was good. It was fun. Maybe some of the consequences aren't going to be that fun, but it was a good time. Anyway, we're moving straight on into the Darrell Brooks saga, ladies and gentlemen. I'd say at this point we're about 70% complete with it, but we're going to take it all the way to the end as per request. Now, we're picking up from the medical examiner. So if you guys recall the last video, we were prosecution was asking the medical examiner a few questions. Now there's two medical examiners. This is one of them. This one in particular went through 3 autopsies out of the 6 or the 7. I'm still not sure on that number. Some of you guys in the comments are saying 6. Some of you guys are saying 7. I need to actually just research it myself. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this. Everybody get the things you need, get the juice, get the alcohol, get the Thanksgiving leftovers. Let's jump into this Darrell Brooks cross-examination.
Any questions for this witness?
I do. Your primary field is in the medical field. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Your primary field is in the medical field. Would that be fair? What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, 10 seconds into this. Your primary field is the medical field, huh? We're talking to someone who does autopsies. I'd say she's in the medical field. Anyways.
Any reason why you would be inspecting a car if that's not a medical professional thing?
Oh my God.
The examination of anything that's related to injuries in the people that I later examine is relevant in my specialty of forensic pathology.
He just learned the word forensic pathology just now. He was like, "Oh, it's not called the medical field. It's forensic. What's that word? Forensic what? Pathology." Bro don't even have a vocabulary, to be honest. To be 100% real with you.
So examining the vehicle would be important to your medical assessments in what way?
Because the injuries that people sustain, whether it's a vehicle in this case or anything else, it's important to correspond the nature of the implement being the car. So it's possible I would be shown a car that would be not consistent with the injuries.
Boom, and that pretty much shows why she needs to see it. Because, like, say they showed her a car and there was a big-ass dent on the back of the door. I mean, the back of the trunk instead of the hood. Then you'll be like, oh, this is clearly not the car that hit these people. So, it only makes sense. The only reason, obviously, he's asking these questions is because he's going to, fishing and looking for loopholes. Just fishing for them. The craziest thing is if he actually found the loophole and got out of this case, like by some grace of insanity, that would have been the craziest trial of the century. Even more so from now. But thank God he didn't do that, because...
So it would be fair to say you've done numerous autopsies in your time as a medical professional. Would that be fair to say?
That's true.
And as you just said, examining the vehicle would be essential to your medical expertise. Is that fair to say?
Examining the vehicle is important to interpret the injuries. I'm not sure that, I don't know if that's the answer to your question.
So if you were doing an injury assessment based on if the injury was caused by a different kind of instrument? Would the same apply to having to view that?
Yes, if, in cases of gunshot wounds, I ask to see the gun. In cases of stabbings or blunt trauma, I ask to see the weapons that they think were used, so I can determine if they are consistent or not consistent. I can't make matches, like precise matches, but I can say it looks like a baseball bat or it looks like a pair of scissors, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and
It would
she's an all-star detective in her own right because I mean she's not the one collecting all the data, but at the same time, she has to see, like she said, the bloody knife, the bloody scissors, the bat. Imagine going to a whole forensic room to see a whole car off of some people who got hit. That's crazy. Like that, I gotta say that's an exciting ass job. Not for everybody, but that shit probably is exciting.
Fair to say, if in a case of a gunshot wound, as you brought up, it wouldn't be. It would. Let me back up. It would. Would you say it would be hard to assess the gun, being that it wouldn't be the actual gun, but the bullets that caused the injury?
Well, actually, I don't examine the bullets, but I would examine the gun, especially, for example, if it's a contact wound. So if the muzzle of the gun touches the skin, then the muzzle could leave a mark. So then I could say the muzzle of the gun shown to me might match the mark.
And that if it was something similar to that, the muzzle type thing, that would be, the mark would be from the heat. Would that be fair to say?
No, not actually. It's actually from the contact of the metal. So it's more of an abrasion than a burn.
It's like you get hit in the head, bam, because you know how the slide like flies back and goes back forward. So I guess it just like hits you in the head when that bullet flies through. And then they have like stippling and all that from from close range shooting. So there's a few things that you can see from just, observing the gun that was used. But like, I mean, why is he going through this? You know what I mean? My question is, why even cover this if it kind of makes sense? Like, she's breaking down why it makes sense to observe the vehicle, to observe the gun, to observe the bat. So so it would make sense to go view the red SUV, right? It doesn't make any sense. Bro's just asking questions for the sake of asking questions.
So in a case like in a case like that, what would be the significance of the actual inspection of the gun?
I'm going to object to this question. I think it's a little bit afield of where we're at.
Grounds.
Overruled. She may answer. She brought it up as an example. I'll allow a little bit of leeway, but go ahead.
Could you repeat your question?
What would be the significance in a case like that, as you stated? You view all types of instruments, gunshot wounds and things of that nature. What would be the significance of inspecting the actual gun in terms of the injury?
Well, I may be able to say that the mark on the skin, for example, is consistent with the outline of the muzzle of that particular weapon, looking at the dimensions and shape.
So what if it was used from a distance? Then what would be the essential reason to inspect the gun?
Depending on the distance, sometimes the pattern of stippling, like for example, if there's a flash suppression or something used, that can play a role. If it's very far away, then the actual characteristics of the weapon are more general. In other words, the size of the hole, for example, or might reflect both the size of the caliber of the gun or the velocity. So it depends on, distance does play a role on what I would be evaluating.
But in this case, there's no distance, bro. It's a big ass red truck that's crumpled down like a fucking Sprite can. So there's no distance here. So why are we even talking about an imaginary gun at the end of the day? I know she's probably sad she ever brought that shit up. But like at the end of the day, we're not talking about a gun. We're talking about a crumpled up Ford Escape that you ran through 40-some people with. I mean.
Do you know if at the time you did the autopsies, if any of the victims you performed the autopsy on had any underlining illnesses at that time? Any?
Underlining illnesses, maybe like getting hit by a 2-ton vehicle. That, like if they said my cause of death was an underlining illness and it was like written under notes like 2-ton car, that would be a hell of an underlining illness, huh? That shit is pretty crazy. Underlining, what are you talking about, bro? You played ping pong with their like heads. There's no underlining illness that will be worse than this. Like
Cancers or anything like that that may have been going on at the time that you did the autopsy?
Yes, I would make observations of any natural disease processes that I saw at the time of autopsy.
Did you observe any?
Yes.
Do you recall from who that was?
Well, Mr. Hospital, he was an older gentleman. He had some heart disease, as I recall, a pacemaker, some coronary artery disease. Ms. Kulik, as I recall, had a large fibroid. That's what I remember. I could look and clarify my memory further, but those are examples.
Can you explain to the jury what is a large thyroid? Is that the word you thyroid?
Fibroid.
it's a fibroid, you uneducated swine piece of shit. Oh my goodness. Now she has to explain what a fibroid is. Bro, you could tell he didn't have a close relationship with any woman, to be real.
I'm sorry.
Yes. It's
Fibroid.
a benign uterine tumor.
Is that a form of cancer?
No.
And you said the older gentleman had some
A
fluid buildup
pacemaker.
in the chest. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to misquote you. Some type of fluid around the chest area.
Correct.
And from your recollection, that wasn't caused by the vehicle?
That was. He entered the hospital actually with
You see, again, ask the questions that you know the answers to. Traits of a good lawyer. Brooks is asking questions not knowing what the fuck she's going to say. He had no idea she was about to say yes. He was like, oh yeah, that wasn't from the car, was it? Oh, actually it was, sir. Tell me you didn't do no homework without telling me you didn't do any homework. He's literally probably in the cell just staring at the wall. He clearly isn't preparing. Clearly. It's clear. Darrell Brooks' voice.
no evidence of that fluid, but it's lymphatic fluid from a thoracic duct injury. So over the time he was treated, especially with the fluid resuscitation, because of the blood loss, the fluid collected in the hospital as a rupture of that thoracic duct injury and was in the pleural space surrounding the lungs.
So that it would be fair to say that came about once he was already at the hospital.
That's true.
And you said he had a pacemaker. Would that have any effect whatsoever on what might have been going on in his chest at the time?
No, and because he was in the hospital, the function of that pacemaker was well documented while he was being monitored.
Was it pretty active, still working properly at that time?
It was.
Even with the loss of blood, as you say, he had a loss of blood. Even then, was it still working pretty good?
Yes, the loss of blood had no effect on the electrical function of the pacemaker.
And were you at the parade at the time of the incident?
No, I was called after.
So at the time you were called, did you know any information about the incident?
Yes, because I was called in my function as a medical examiner, I was informed about the death of numerous people, injuries of more, and that this was a result of a car going through the parade.
Damn.
Do you recall if it was referred to as a car or a SUV?
I'm sure I was told it was an SUV because the vehicle in question was in custody at the time.
And you were already privy to that information before you arrived at the scene?
Either before or at the scene.
Do you recall?
It's crazy that the deeper we get into this trial, the more he's trying to just find technicalities, and he's trying to just like find little loopholes. And because I think more and more he's starting to realize how bad this is looking, and more he's like, I need like a Hail Mary. I need something to end the trial. I need something that's going to be a technicality and just throw the jury out, make the judge free me. Other than that, I think he sees he's going to jail. Because like what are you talking about? You're like, oh, did dispatch call it a car or SUV? Or possibly did they call it a truck? So if they call it a truck and we all call it a truck, so it's a truck, it's not SUV. Like, what is he saying? Like, even small terminologies he's trying to catch people on. And it's like, bro, nothing's going to happen. You're going to jail. You're going to go to jail. That's what's going to happen.
Whom informed you of that?
It could either have been my staff, who were the first people notified, so they would have reported to me what they were told, or it could have been detectives at the scene who I also interacted with.
So it would be fair to say you don't really recall.
Not specifically.
And you said you observed damage to the vehicle when you were able to view it?
Yes.
Would you say it was extensive damage, or did you really look at one specific area? Or let me rephrase that: were you really focused on one certain area of the vehicle when you viewed it?
Well, when I was examining the car, actually the crime lab was there. So we looked at the entire circumference of the vehicle, and the vehicle was also on a lift, and we looked under the vehicle because we were questioning whether there was clothing perhaps or other physical evidence that would be important to document. So I would say that I looked at the car quite comprehensively, although it was not my job to document damage to the vehicle per se, other than what related to my autopsy interest.
And that would be specifically looking at the hood of the vehicle to determine how it fit with your medical expertise?
Well, I paid attention to the front end of the vehicle, which is the part that typically is involved in pedestrian strikes. And those are the parts that I paid more attention to in terms of measurement than, say, I don't know, but it would be wherever the damage is, because now I'm thinking in some pedestrian strikes, there are cracks to the windshield or injuries to the side mirrors and so forth. So I paid attention wherever I thought the damage would be that would be relevant to my cases.
And imagine you have to check under the car looking for clothing. That's crazy, bro. That's how you know this guy was on demon time. You mean to tell me you're running over people? Because I feel like it's just different when you hit somebody and they've kind of like fly in the air and it's like, all right, fuck you, we're going to keep driving. But when you go over somebody and you feel the car lift up and then come back down and then lift up and then come back down, I feel like that's another level of just not giving a fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, yeah, that's crazy. They had to put the car in the lift and look all underneath the car because he ran over multiple people. That's crazy.
I did take measurements of the front end.
With your expertise, would you determine that all of the damage that you observed would be caused strictly from hitting one thing or numerous?
I can say that there were multiple areas of the car that had damage, so it would seem unlikely to be from one impact, because in my experience, it's, you could have a frontal impact, you can have a side impact, you can be rear-ended, but there were dents, if you will, in multiple areas of the car.
So from your expertise, that could have came from a number of different things.
That's true.
You made a brief observation about speed and velocity. Do you have any expertise in that area?
Only to the extent that I understand how injuries occur and in terms of the transfer of kinetic energy, because all injuries I see in the body have to do with that kind of transfer.
Would it be fair to say that everybody is different though?
Everybody is different.
So with May, I guess I would phrase the question by saying, something that may seriously injure someone else probably wouldn't seriously injure another person. Based on your expertise.
Generally, things of a serious nature don't become not serious. I would say that different people might have this.
This lady just said, yo, generally something that's going to fuck you up and kill you is going to fuck up and kill anybody. You know, we're not excluding one person to the other because they're slightly different, bro. You got hit by a 2-ton vehicle. Pretty much the same thing is going to happen across the board. You know what I mean? Pretty much the same thing, unless you're a 7'2", 500-pound linebacker who just can, you know, knock back a few trucks and shit. Typically, you know, you're gonna get fucked up. Like the brain injuries, the injuries to the limbs, all that consistent across the board. Because guess what? You're getting run over by a car, bruh. Like, what are you talking about? Aren't people different? Yeah, of course people are different. Not different to trucks though. Oh, I'm sorry. They're not different to SUVs, because if I say it's a truck or a car, Darrell Brooks might try to catch me on a technical foul, a little technicality, you know?
You know, there are differences in people and how injuries how different events might injure them. But I wouldn't say that something that's serious in one individual would be minimal in another.
Thank you.
Even though there might be a range, it's not going to be okay for one person, but maybe deadly for another. That is not typically how it is.
But it can vary.
It can vary.
Do you recall how many people you were called to attend to the night of the incident?
How many people I was called to attend to?
Yes.
There were 3 victims on the road. Those are the ones that I saw that night.
Did you see anyone else besides those 3?
I later saw Ms. Kulik, who came from the hospital. Those were the people I examined that evening.
So it was just the 3?
The 4.
Oh, I'm sorry, 4.
Yes,
And no one besides those 4?
correct.
Do you recall being notified possibly to testify in this matter?
Yes.
Do you know about when?
I knew always that this case would end up in trial. I mean, but I don't remember when I actually had a date and time for appearance.
And how would you know exactly that the case would end up in trial? And I say
This was
that
her opinion, you fucking jackass, which is crazy that, she knew that you're an asshole. You're not going to plead out. Everybody knew that you were going to fight to the bitter end. You're not going to take any deal. There's probably no deal to be offered, to be honest. There's nothing to take other than saying, other than pleading guilty. And everybody knew that wasn't going to happen.
because many factors could play out along, many different things happen over time.
You're right. That was probably a misstatement on my part. I thought it might go to trial, given the nature of the case, but I did not know for sure.
That makes sense, definitely. So you had an idea that you might be testifying.
That's true.
And when did you know for sure that you would be testifying?
But you really only know for sure when you're called to court. You get a subpoena and things can still change. So I guess that's the best answer I can give you.
Do you recall when you were subpoenaed?
No.
Was it fairly recent to now, or was it some time ago, a few months?
Probably not months, but I don't remember.
And it's crazy when they subpoena you, you don't even know anything other than the questions they're gonna ask you. I was watching the Bradley Young case the other day, and the guy didn't know the guy that they were examining. He didn't know anything about the rest of the case. He just knew what he was a part of. For example, they were at like the gas station. Jan and his accomplice go over there and play some video poker. But the guy, it's the gas station service guy or whoever they're asking these questions to. Jan did Jan, the defendant, he asked the question. He was like, "Do you know anything else about the case?" And the guy looked at him and he was like, "No." So apparently, people who get subpoenaed, they only know as far up to what they're involved in. They don't inform you. They don't give you a packet saying, "Oh, this is what's happening. This is the overview of the case." Apparently, that's what I was just realizing the other day. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So that way, like, people can't really assume or, start to predict what's going to happen.
Do you recall whom you were subpoenaed by?
The district attorney.
Would that be referring to one of the district attorneys here today?
Sue Hopper.
So this was really like a 11th hour bottom of the night thing for you to get them prepared and be ready to go today then. Would that be fair to say?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's true, I did finish preparing them today, but I was, what shall I say? I was detailing them and wanted them to be as good as possible.
So how long did it take for you to detail them?
I guess I have to explain that there are no pre-existing diagrams of front and back skeleton and body diagrams in my office's collection of diagrams. So I spent time finding the proper diagrams, scaling them, composing them, and putting them in a format that I thought would be the best.
I like that now that, her answers are basically perfect. He can't find any issue. Now she did too good of a job. Now it's like, so these diagrams, have you done them to this extent before for any other case? Or are you showing some type of bias for this case and you're trying to do an extra good job to get me in jail? It's crazy, but like, this is the type of person you cannot win an argument with. You can't show them logic. You can't do anything. They're just bullheaded. Literally. So that was pretty much it, y'all. Brooksy is over here, doing his best, trying his hardest, but it's quite terrible. Kind of wasted the medical practitioner's time, but the prosecution, go check out my other video. Prosecution really paints a good picture. They paint a really good picture of what he inflicted. And it's kind of funny how he doesn't show any diagrams. He doesn't show any autopsies. He's just going straight questioning and trying to find little loopholes, no diagram. I wonder why. But anyways, people, I love you guys, man. I hope you had a beautiful Thanksgiving. I'm back on the clock. We're back on this thing. So look out for some more videos today and tomorrow. Stay inside, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one, y'all. I'm out of here.